Hey guys, another video for our Buying a House in Japan playlist. A couple of people out there are interested in goings on at the old farmhouse, so there's a couple of goings on this week, so we thought we'd show you this. So this is the guest room at the back, and the air conditioner's died, and there's a couple of people coming from Australia. They're going from an Australian winter to a Japanese summer. So that they don't die, we really have to do something about the aircon. So it was actually the compressor that died. So we're off to the air conditioning, off to the electrical store, look at the air conditioning. So these units here are all 100 volts. You have a choice in Japan. You can have 100 volt air conditioning systems or 200 volt air conditioning systems. So the 100 volt ones are cheaper, however they're more expensive to run. The 200 volt ones are more expensive, but they're much cheaper to run. So if you can get an economically priced, in other words cheap, cheaper system than 200 volt system, then sometimes it's worthwhile. Bit of a marketing tactic to get you in the mood for summer. Have a listen to this. So they're playing the sound of the cicadas in the store to make people feel hot. So there's the compressor, that's the culprit. It would start and then it'd shut down. Look at the dodgy way it was installed. Fairly typical. They just ran the pipe straight out through the wall and down to the compressor. Ugly as anything, isn't it? So that was 20 years ago that was installed. So they said it was an extra $50 to have that old system removed. So we wanted to keep it for parts because we've got another system that's 20 years old that's the same, exactly the same model. So we want to keep it for parts in case that other one dies, because terribly wasteful. There was one PC board in there that was faulty and they couldn't replace it. So rather than, replace one PC board, we had to replace the whole system inside and out. So we're going to keep these parts in case the second one dies, and then we can use these parts to fix it. So rather than spend $50 on the technician doing it, we got the unskilled labourer to do it because he's cheap. But the compressor's really heavy. Those of you who've ever moved a compressor, and that was a big one, really, really heavy. So roll it out of there, take it off and store it in the back room somewhere in case we can use the parts in the future. This was tricky too. Never pulled an air conditioning system apart. No experience at air conditioning systems at all, really, from close up, just cleaning filters. But the only way to get it off the wall is to actually lift the whole thing off. So you've actually got to cut the pipe off. You can't undo the pipe at that end. So the only real way to do it was to get up there and cut it off and then pull it back inside, which we assumed that it was because the unskilled labourer didn't know what he was doing. But when the guys turned up to put the new one in, we found that was actually correct. That was the only way to do it. So there we are, getting it off the wall. The electrical cable got caught up in the bracket and made for an uncomfortable couple of moments there. Anyway, it was done. Save $50. $50 saved is $50 earned, isn't it? So then the air conditioning guys turned up, moved the bracket a little bit from the old one. So we first of all, and this is always worth doing with these sorts of jobs, it's worth talking to them first and giving them an idea of what you expect. So we made clear to this guy that we didn't want to see that hole, because with the old system we could actually see that hole where it went outside. See what he's doing? The reverse of what we had to do to get it out. So it just shows that we were correct in our strategy. But yeah, we made it clear first that we want it neat, and we know this is a crappy old house, and beimyo is the Japanese word, but we said we didn't want to make it more beimyo. So we want to try and make everything neat. So we want to cover that hole on the inside, and we want to do something more tidy with that pipe outside, because that was always annoying having that ugly thing out there. So you can actually spend a couple $100 more and get ducting to put this pipe in, but it is an old house and it's going to be demolished eventually, so another couple of $100 for ducting isn't justified. However, they tied up with that tape, which interestingly, the tape that was there from 20 years ago was still in good condition. So whatever tape that they use is fine. It seems to be fine. and it was unpainted. It was just as it was for 20 years, and it was still in good condition. So our plan was to put it up more tidily than it was, and then paint it. And it means obviously you're still going to be able to see it. It's not quite as good as ducting, of course. Ducting would be better, but it's better than it was. And again, it's only an old house. You know, when you have an old house like this, you'll never make it look new and shiny. The only thing you can do is to try and, we figure every job we do, we try to leave the place looking a little bit better each time, keeping in mind we don't want to spend too much money. So, I mean, the only reason we're doing this is because this room in summer is like 38 degrees, 40 degrees, because it's got sun on it all day. So you can't really expect people to be able to sleep in there. And at night, it might not get below 30 at night either. So it's pretty horrible. So really have to spend the money on the aircon. Some of you be wondering how much. It was June Iman, so it's about $1,200–1,300, something like that. So it's fairly painful. But the difference is the cheapest we could get would be about $800, but that'd be for a 100-volt one, and it would be working its tail off, which would mean that your monthly electricity bill for it would be really high. So if any of you guys find yourself in the same position in Japan where you've got to decide between a 100-volt and a 200, if you get a cheaper 200-volt, this is a Hitachi, which is a pretty good brand. If you get a cheaper 200-volt one, it's sort of worth it. So, and then what we did was we moved it around the corner because it was here and it had the sun on it all day, which makes the compressor work even harder. So we moved it around the corner, which means it's going to be in the sun first thing in the morning for a short period of time, and then it's going to be out of the sun. And we're going to put 6-inch piece of foam on top of it as well as a bit of insulation, because if you can keep the compressor cool, it makes it more efficient as well. So all these things sort of add up to make it a bit more cost effective. And whatever that extra cost was for the 200-volt system, we already had a 200-volt power plug in there, power socket, so it was only the extra cost of the system, which was probably in the end probably only a couple $100. So we should get that back within 2 or 3 months in the amount of electricity it should save us if we run this. We're going to have people there shortly that are going to be there for a month, so they're going to be running it every day, so it won't take long to get the money back. So can of paint for the unskilled labourer. That's actually the same colour paint, but the new paint's brand new, of course. That old paint's 5 years old and it's starting to fade a bit. But again, better than it was. That's what we figure. You know, you can't try and make an old place like this look brand new, but if you can make it look a little bit better every time you go for it. So disguise the pipe. And then what happened inevitably was there was a few places on that wall where the paint had started to get a bit thin or started to flake. There was a couple of wood bits there around the corner that started to flake, so that little painting job there got a bit out of hand. Actually ended up going for a couple of hours. Whole sheets of timber got repainted, but it's worth doing. Again, a little bit of maintenance. It's the cost benefit thing with these old houses, isn't it? If you spend too much money on them, it's a waste, because at some stage this building's going to get torn down. It's inevitable. You know, when we sell the place eventually, nobody's going to move in and enjoy living in the old house. They'll demolish it straight away and probably build anything up to 5 new houses, because the new houses they build on tiny little blocks and the houses almost touch each other. So the size of this land is actually 5 blocks. So what they do is they demolish this building and the house itself and build 5 new houses, probably side by side. So all this is going to end up rubbish, which is why we're really careful about spending money on it, because we won't get it back. So I'm going to do a before and after, just because, just to see there's some change. So there was the old compressor and the big piece of pipe, and as you can see, the compressor's out in the sun. That pipe was always annoying. Just an eyesore. Probably no one else noticed it, but the unskilled labourer always did. And there it is now. So it's a little bit better. It's a little bit better. Notice a new coat of paint on that front bit under the window too. Got out of hand, that painting job did. And see down the side, nice and neat and tidy now, nice and clean. We can actually get down the side there more easily now too for cleaning windows and things. So it was definitely worthwhile. And then we've got an air conditioner inside that's going to work better and be more efficient and probably cheaper to run than the old one anyway. So it was a bit of a win in the end. So there you are, those 3 people who like watching the old farmhouse videos. There's one for you. More videos coming soon.